The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. It's finally time, part one of a two-parter of the NFL win totals. Today, we're talking NFC. Please share around the show, give it a like, and in the description, leave your DK handle after giving it a like, and tell us your favorite over or under for a chance to win 20 DK dollars. Geoff Fienberg is here to go through every single team, every single division. We had to start with the NFC so you didn't blow your load on the Chargers right off the hop.
No, that was my decision. I told you we should do the NFC first because I'll just get an adrenaline rush talking AFC football.
And the big thing that we're going to try to do, I'm going to try to keep track of this, is not get anchored down by the first three teams. We'll spend 40 minutes talking about them and then be like,
rapid fire, 3 divisions.
Yeah.
Because we just went 40 on the East.
So we'll try to spend 5 minutes on each team-ish. We'll see how that works out because inevitably we're going to get waylaid because there is the third member of this team and Lord knows what he's going to say. His name, Tim Undergust.
Tim Undergust.
That is not my name.
Then what is your name, sir?
Tribune.
It doesn't matter what your name is. Let's get right into it. First thing we actually...
Sorry.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, he just still falls right for it.
Every single time?
Every time.
Well, this is... You need to have a sort of consistency if you're going to be a repeat guest on the Pat Mayo Experience. So the first thing that we should really go through... and we'll do this on the AFC show too. And people are going to complain that we're talking about this, but other people are going to be very happy because it's the question that I get the most. Now, we've been sports betting for a very long time because in Canada, where we are, it's been legal for a very long time. So Americans are now kind of getting into it. There's a lot of Americans that understand what a minus in front of something means or a plus in front of something means, and how money lines work when you're talking about VIG and things like that. The problem is there's a lot of people that don't know what you're talking about. So very quickly, let's run through this. So we'll just use a fake line here. So let's say a win total is 8.5. If you bet over the win total, you have to get 9 or more wins. If you bet under, it's 8 or fewer wins. Now, the big thing that the books do is they don't really adjust the win totals throughout the year. So even the preseason. So if someone opens at 7.5, they don't necessarily rejig everything and drop them to 5.5. If everyone is just pounding the under on that, what they do is increase the VIG on the under. So for example, if you had minus 150 as next to the over, and we'll say these for each of them. So if it's a minus 150 to bet the over, that means in order to bet that over win total, you need to wager $150 to win 100. Now, it's the exact opposite if it's a plus. If it's plus 150, if you wager $100, you get 150 back. It's 1.5 to 1 on your money. That explains it, right?
Pretty much. And VIG, I guess, commonly also just referred to as juice.
Juice,
I think in a lot of places
So what that means is most books aren't going to give you fair odds. No book gives you fair odds. Some books are better than others as it pertains to, on each of these win totals that we're using right now, there's 30 cents of juice. On some of them are even more on the more extreme lines. But generally speaking, an even money bet on this for an over-under would be minus 115 and minus 115 on each side. Now, on your normal NFL Sundays, when you see a spread, and we'll talk about that when we start talking about spreads and everything like that, is that it'll be minus 110, minus 110 on each side. They'll take 20 cents of juice on everything. So that's the explanation. So when we get into divisions and you see plus 425, that's, or let's just say plus 500, that would be 5 to 1. Plus 4,000 would be 40 to 1. Tim's already having a gig fit. He's learning.
When you said plus 425, I wanted to see you do the fractional work on the floor.
I was going to say 4.25 to 1, but then that's just really weird. But that's what it is. And anything with a minus is what you need to lay to win $100. Everything is based on the premise of $100.
Yes.
So if you wager 10, it would be the same. You just cut one of the zeros off the end. All right? You think that's good, Geoff?
I think that's pretty good. I think that's good, but you're right. It always takes me aback, but there are a lot of people that don't know these terms.
Yeah.
But to us, it's sort of been
common nature.
Elementary, because you could make these bets in your convenience stores in Canada for decades.
Yeah. So let's get into the teams. We'll start with the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals are the first team up, and they have a win total of 5.5, and it is minus 160 to bet the over, plus 130 to bet the under. To win the division, they're 12-1. To win the conference, they're 33-1. To win the Super Bowl, they're 80-1. They were 8-8 last year. And when you look at this division, presumably the Rams got better, especially on defense, and potentially even on offense with Brandon Cooks coming over. The Niners, with a full season of Jimmy Garoppolo, everyone's real fired up for them. Seattle probably got a lot worse. Like, their defense just isn't what it was. Arizona's already banged up on the offensive line. However, they do get David Johnson back. Sam Bradford will probably start the year. Josh Rosen will come in at some point, you'd expect. Christian Kirk, less coked out than he was like 3 months ago. He could potentially take over the Larry Fitzgerald complement piece. It could be Bryce Butler. People are fired up for Ricky Seals-Jones. This defense will still attack, even though it might not be the greatest. But 5.5 seems really low for this number, in my mind. Like, I don't even know if they're all that good, but 5.5 is just low.
What would they win last year?
8-8.
8-8, and they didn't have a single game from David Johnson. And I think if healthy, their O-line is better than last year.
They already lost their center
Yes.
for the year.
And we got a new coach, right?
Did we? Tim, do we have a new
Yes.
coach?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Bruce Arians. It is now Steve Wilkes. They have Bruce Arians is one of the best coaches in football, so losing him.
He's
is
not one of the
probably
best
worth-
coaches in football. You just like him because he wears that fucking
Yeah.
stupid hat.
That is a very cool hat, but he also is an excellent coach. I don't see this team coming close to 8 wins this year.
Yeah, but they don't need to get to 8 wins. They need to get to 6 wins.
Yeah, I would, gun to my head, I think I would take the over. I don't really love it. I just think that 16 games out of David Johnson, I do believe...
If he plays 16 games.
I do believe the offensive line is better. There are a lot of holes, and the division is strong.
Well, okay, let me throw
I'm not going to like...
No, let me throw this out here for you. Are we convinced the NFC West is actually that strong of a division? Maybe all these teams are just overrated.
Okay, that's a fair point, because we'll get to the team we'll get to next I'm going to pick on, and you know what? I think the division is overrated, because I got notes on all these teams, and when push comes to shove, it might be. If I have to pick this one, I'd say over 5.5. It's not one I'm going to stand on the hill and scream about, but I'll say over 5.5.
So you're taking over 5.5. Tim,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the Cardinals this year?
I picked them at 5-11, so I guess I like the under. I think losing Arians matters. I think their quarterback situation is a mess.
I think, but their quarterback situation has improved from last year, if nothing else.
Fractionally so, but Bruce Arians also made us a lot of. He basically spun straw into gold last year, and without him there, I think that matters. Larry Fitz, he had a fantastic year again last year, but the guy is old. Who knows how many more years of elite production he's got? David Johnson is a marvelous player. Can any average sports fan name 4 players on the Cardinals defense? I don't think so. I think that defense is problematic. And listen, I think the NFC West is top heavy. There's 2 really, really good teams and 2 absolutely terrible teams, in my opinion. And their schedule is not good. They've got to play outside of the division. Washington is a loss. The Chargers.
Let's pump the brake. Hold on a second. Let's pump the brakes on Washington for a second. Let's not just pencil in a loss for Arizona against Washington.
Well, perhaps when we get to the Skins, I'm perhaps higher on them than others.
I guess, for the purposes of picking total wins, you feel inclined to play the game that Tim loves to play, which is going through the schedule in August and assigning wins and losses.
That game is week 1, and now it's an Adrian Peterson revenge game.
Okay, yes, the week 1 game is worth talking about, but I think there's little to gather from that, other than knowing who their crossover divisions are, who they might have to play.
AFC West.
Which is a mixed bag.
Yeah. Much like its own division. And where are they crossovering within conference?
The East?
I believe the NFC North.
Now, that's bad news, because I think the North is probably the best division.
Yeah, I see both Lions and Packers on their schedule.
Yeah, so obviously the North.
I'm going to lean slight over, because I'm probably taking under for some of the other teams in the division, because I do think this division is a little bit overrated. So I'll take 6-10, 7-9. Arizona, they got their best player back. They're upgraded at quarterback. I
agree.
I just feel like their offense should be improved to the point where if they went 8-8 last year, subtracting 2 wins shouldn't be the end of
They
the world.
got the really solid linemen from the Giants as well. I keep going back to it. And Uapati is supposed to be healthy. I don't know.
All right, next team, Seattle. So that's over, under. So you and I are both over. Tim is under. Seattle Seahawks win total is 8.5. It's plus 140 to bet the over. Everyone's hammering the under. One of the biggest VIGs on the board, minus 170 to hit the under on the Seahawks. They're plus 425 to win the division, 15-1 to win the conference, 33-1 to win the Super Bowl. They were 9-7 last year. Can't believe they were 9-7 last year, to be perfectly honest with you. They had no run game. Their offensive line is in shambles, which it still is. It does seem like Chris Carson, if they want to run the ball, could be all right. Well, Tim, they got Brian Schottenheimer now. That must make you happy.
Yeah, there's no one who's more innovative and creative than Brian Schottenheimer. 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
The dream is dead. That's sort of my note.
The run is over on Seattle.
And that's, it should have had 2 Super Bowls. That's unfortunate. All the credit to it. Those windows are so quick. They had it. They had some, they hit on so many mid-level draft picks that became superstars in this league.
And they got a quarterback who was a superstar on a rookie deal, allowing them to pay the people, a lot like what the Rams are doing right now.
And it worked, but you watch this team now, between all the players that they've lost, just because of proximity, the Chargers and Seahawks would always play a preseason game. In the Pete Carroll era, I hated this game because, yes, the Chargers have a propensity to get hurt, and Seattle's just always this foaming at the mouth team, and Pete Carroll's always even wanting to win preseason games, just how he does it. Watch that whole game on Saturday, not to take too much away, but from every year before, it was like a dominating Seahawks preseason as the Chargers are just trying to get to a season healthy. They can't do anything. Russell Wilson played the entire first half. That team is in real trouble, especially if the Rams and 49ers are going to be good. They've regressed at pretty much everywhere. It's easy to say it with a lot of teams. If they didn't have Russell Wilson, they might win 3 games.
Well, here's the thing. They have the best player in the division. That helps.
Oh,
no, they don't.
And
Yeah, they do. They do have the best player
No,
in
they
the
don't.
division. Who's the best player?
He's got Jimmy G as an MVP, so you got to get...
I would take Todd Gurley over any of those guys. I probably would take David Johnson over any of those guys.
If you were starting a team right now, you would take Todd Gurley over Russell Wilson?
I think it's...
No. The answer is no.
No.
I don't know. I think you are...
I want to build around a running back, because that's
he's
the
a Hall
smart
of Fame
move.
quarterback
I
with
get
7
that.
years
You know what? This is a
left, right?
4-12 team, maybe a 3-13 team. It is a team that could easily have the first pick overall. It's a garbage team.
I think that Russell Wilson can carry them to a few wins because they're going to be playing a ton of shootouts. If Doug Baldwin is healthy, their offense is still going to be pretty good.
Also,
No, it won't.
they went 9-7 last year. I'm curious what the home record was because I know it's not what it was, but they can still flirt with 500 just by being a dominant home team.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the 8.5 is I don't think they're 3-13.
I don't want to lay 70 cents juice, but this is not a team I'm putting money on to be over 500. Because they won 9 games last year, and you wonder how that happened. They're significantly worse in a lot of areas this year. I don't think
and Earl Thomas Earl Thomas might have
You
play.
take the rabbit out of the hat that sort of they had to grasp a couple times last year because there was still felt like there were moments of Seahawk magic. I think that fairy dust is gone, and credit to the era, but it's gone. And I
4
want,
wins
I
and
want
4
no
losses
part of
last
it.
year at home.
4-4 at home last year.
They're done. Toast.
So you would bet the minus 170 on the under, Tim?
I think it's only because I think this win total is so off, like crazy off, that I can justify it.
I too am going to take the under, but I think it's a lot closer than obviously Tim does. If he thinks they're going to win 3 or 4 games, I think they're in that 7 to 9 range. Like they could be 9-7.
No.
Like that's not unrealistic. But at 2 of those numbers fall below
Again,
the
remember
8.5.
they have the same tough crossovers at the Cardinals.
Thank you. You know what? I completely forgot about that. Someone did the Men in Black thing to me, and I completely spaced out on it from 4 minutes ago.
Okay, you don't need to be facetious. Just trying to make a point.
I'm with you. Make that 3 unders. It seems like the whole world, like you said, it's one of the bigger.
Yeah, I'm not betting that number.
It's been one of the bigger ones, so it seems like it's so popular. Maybe something else can happen there. I got a veteran team that's in worse shape in the NFC that is actually in worse place. But I worry, when a veteran team things start to go sideways, it can get
here's the thing.
It can get ugly.
Bad offensive line, lack of running game. Maybe Chris Carson's a revelation. Who knows? Maybe Penny is actually quite good once he comes back from this finger injury. But one bad hit to Russell Wilson, and it's game over. Like, you're betting on Russell Wilson not only being Russell Wilson, but also staying healthy for 16 games, which he's shown he can do.
He's shown, and he's slippery, and he's gippery, and he gets away, and he's one of my problems with the new rule.
But what happens to him if he gets injured week 4? What happens to Seattle?
I hate that conversation.
Yeah, but
that's like 22 teams in the
Yeah, but
league.
all things being equal, that things need to go right for them to hit the over. If he gets hurt, it's way under.
Oh, it's not even close. But every team in the league sort of has that.
Yeah, yes and no.
A lot of them. But, that's my concern with the new helmet rules, because you got guys like Wilson and Watson who are so, like, slippery, Cam Newton, that how do you make the one time that you think that the play's over, I'm going to lay up, I don't want to get a penalty, they're going to, like, slip away, the ref doesn't blow the whistle, and all of a sudden this play's still happening.
Well, Tim, let me throw this out here for you, because this is something that's been discussed on Twitter a little bit, that the markets haven't really adjusted to over-unders. The over-unders for week 1 of this year look very similar to what they look like from week 16, week 15 last season. But this new helmet rule could extend drives. If people just aren't really savvy to what's going on, it could really help offenses out by generating more red zone situations, therefore generating more points. Yeah. It's just a liability for the defense to have to worry about this rule. Do you think that the play might be to smash all the overs like the first week until Vegas adjusts?
So I don't agree. Not that I'm saying you should smash the unders, because that I wouldn't agree with that either. In fact, I would counsel caution, because I think these rules are going to affect the offense quite a bit as well. Plus, the NFL's number 2 priority this year is to stop those pick plays outside the 1-yard line. That will really hurt offenses and will advantage some defenses. So it could very well be the case that the overs are going to go over, and the case you make is fine. But it does cut both ways. It will affect running backs who bury their head, and we've seen that in the preseason too. And the NFL is trying to prevent blocking down the field outside of that 1-yard grace zone, right? So I think I would advise caution and avoid the over-unders if at all reasonable in week 1, and let's just see how things shake out.
See, I think that you've missed the boat if you're not going to do it. Now, I might be completely wrong, and maybe it is all unders.
I don't know that the boat's there.
But don't historically, isn't historically week 1, like, aren't defenses usually come out of the gate in better spots than the offenses to begin with?
Usually, I remember a lot of lower scoring.
No, this is all just
subjective.
Yeah,
and
like,
memory.
this is all just
perception
trying to
of the game. I bet on week 1.
I have no numbers to back that. If someone does, please send them my way.
I will say this.
I think that if you want to be aggressive and you do think this helps the offense more than it helps the defense, that I think that targeting overs week 1, because Vegas will adjust very quickly if the overs all do smash week 1, that would be the opportunity to do it.
I'm not a big total player, and I remember a couple years ago with the new, when the extra point got moved back, and people thought there'd be more 2-point conversions, a propensity for that, or even people thought that would affect how key numbers worked in the league now. And I don't, because I'm not really the biggest total player. I don't even recall did that have an impact on totals? I feel like 98% of times teams still kick the 30-yard 1-pointer.
They shouldn't. They should almost go for 2. They should almost go for 2 every time.
Yeah, and the sharp football math would agree with you.
Yeah. All right, next team.
I don't mean sharp guys. I mean Warren Sharp.
Yes. Warren Sharp, who was on the show breaking all this stuff down, including strength of schedule as it pertains to win totals like 2 weeks ago. You can go check that out. It's up on the feed right now and on the YouTube channel. LA Rams, win total 9.5 to bet the over, -145. To bet the under, +115. To win the division, -140. To win the conference, 6.5 to 1. To win the Super Bowl, 11 to 1. They come in with an improved defense. But my concern for them, and Brandon Cooks is an upgrade.
Of course, over Watkins.
Yeah, but you bring in Sue, you bring in Marcus Peters. That's
Aqib Talib.
It starts looking pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. Gurley got paid, and this is year 2 of this offense. And I worry, and we saw this with Atlanta a little bit in the playoffs when they beat the Rams, that I think teams may be able to adjust to them now. They weren't expecting what they saw from LA last year, and they took a lot of people by surprise. No one is going to be surprised by the Rams anymore. Now, are they good enough to overcome that and cross the 9.5? Probably, but I don't think this team's elite.
I'm with you. I could
Like,
buy
I think the Vikings are a lot better.
I could buy into the Rams covering this 9.5, but I don't want a piece of them in a Super Bowl. I think from
like
a world championship,
minus 140 to win this division seems pretty steep.
I do not see this team winning a Super Bowl. I don't see how there isn't some combustible force within this. What they're trying to do in the history of football hasn't worked before.
I mean, this is like I mentioned earlier that this is similar to what the Seahawks did when they went on their Super Bowl runs.
No,
they have the quarterback on the rookie contract, and they have just players around them that they're paying.
But
now.
they didn't just bring in those were guys they drafted and they hit on like third, fourth, fifth round picks for like
when
they
started paying, they were able to pay those guys to stay because they didn't have to pay their.
They brought in seeds, and they're just like. It'll be interesting how it works with still a young head coach.
So you're saying bad chemistry potential on the Rams?
I'm just saying the chemistry, this off-season free agency trading bonanza team in the NFL has never worked before.
It worked for the Jags D last year.
And but they had so many. It was like more on all of their young draft picks hitting more than
and then bringing in Cam
more than anything. If you're going to tell me that the Rams have like second, third, fourth rounders, which they don't have from the Goff trade, were coming up, and those were going to be superstars, I could buy it more.
But the Rams are all in though.
Yes, and they were playing a different game. One, the Chargers never play and are too cheap to play. But that stadium, they want so much money for those PSI. Imagine going to the Super Bowl as you're selling private seat licenses for a new stadium in Los Angeles.
It'd be bucks.
Exactly. That whole privately financed Kroenke, the Walmart money's built like a museum of NFL entertainment that they're building down there that the Chargers get to live on the 13th floor of or something. It's all about the Rams, and it's all about that being successful. And that's what they are trying to do. There's a game within the game that the Rams are playing. They're incredibly talented. I think when it comes time to win the Super Bowl, it won't happen. And it's fair to have that conversation, but I think overall that it's an overrated big picture.
So Tim, I know you like the Rams, but you probably like the Niners better. So are you going over or under on their 9.5?
I have two words for you: Super Bowl.
Are the Rams?
They are my Super Bowl champions.
They're your Super Bowl champions?
Yes, this is my laying of hands upon them to bless them. They are my Super Bowl champions.
You know what that does, by the way, Tim?
Super Bowl champion number 1. Let's keep track of this.
All right, so that's
because we'll have like 5 of them by the time we're in like week 6.
That's true, and then by the time the playoffs come around, he'll add another 8 to the card. None of them will be the Patriots, and the Patriots will just end up winning. But it sounds like the Rams are an early frontrunner to be most under-cursed team of 2018.
I am not concerned whatsoever about the chemistry. I think they've stopped. Their defense has a chance to be historic. We saw the steps forward with Goff you'd want to see last year. Cooks is a beneficial addition, as you said. They have a marvelous head coach. Gurley is a great running back. They have 2 absolute cupcakes in their division in Arizona and Seattle that they get to absolutely pistol whip. I don't know. I don't see any downside right now. I have the Rams at 14 wins and 2 losses.
14 and 2?
I think it's the 1 seed in the NFC. I love everything about this team. I mean, this team. I mean, and it's funny because Geoff believes in this theory that you have to develop as a team in stages. And last year was the Rams becoming a playoff team, and that was last year's step. The next step is to go from just being a playoff team to a genuine Super Bowl contender. And so I'm sort of following his logical leaps that he takes with the development of a team, and that's where the Rams are. The Rams are in it to win it, and in my opinion, they will be winning it in Atlanta.
Well, the big thing is there's 2 things to watch out for when you see progressions from teams. It is, one, did that team take a huge leap forward? And then a lot of the times they generally take a little step back. They brought in all these new players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that it's not really going to be a similar defense whatsoever. So it's not really much of the same team. On offense it will be, but on defense it won't be.
It's gotten better, and the defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips, has proven as a D coordinator to be incredibly savvy and incredibly. I mean, he's the assistant head coach in charge of the defense.
Yeah, you watch sorry, but you watch the Rams games, and they're on defense, and McVay's not even watching.
Yeah, he's out like having a cig.
And
He's
that's
just-
fine.
No,
You know,
that's
that's
fine
what
because
Bill
he trusts
Walker-
Wade Phillips, and he's a young guy, and he know McVay's going to be an expert at what he's an
Hey,
expert at,
one of the
and not
big- one
pretend
of the-
to be a defensive
One of
expert.
the biggest things that you can know is know what you don't know and
Yeah.
trust someone better to do it for you.
Absolutely, and I will pick the over 9.5, but I'm throwing cold water on this team winning a championship.
I'm going to take an under because they're way too Andrew cursed at this point. Bad news.
But he's got 14. They can still get to 10.
I don't know. I don't know. If they get to 2
I
at
don't
this
see what
point.
could go wrong.
Oh!
I don't see what could go wrong.
All right. San Francisco. The Niners are 8.5 as part of their win total. Even money to bet the over, minus 130 to bet the under. So more people are betting the under than the over. Plus 275 to win the division, 10-1 to win the conference, 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. I don't know what to make of this Niners team. 'Cause I don't think the defense is going to be very good. But Tim, is Jimmy G the best player in football, like you continue to say?
I think by the end of this season, Jimmy G could be the best quarterback in that division. I do believe that. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I like this team going over. I think I picked them for 10 wins. So I think they're a playoff team. Listen, Jimmy G, with an incredibly reduced playbook last year, came to San Francisco and didn't lose a game. So now you're giving him an entire offseason to learn all the ins and all the outs, all the what have yous, to quote the dude, of the playbook. Why can't he then, who already elevated that team from nothing to somebody who is respectable by year's end? You add some smart draft picks, a head coach that, again, proved, I mean, Shanahan is respected. Shanahan is a very smart, I mean, he turned Matt Ryan into the NFL MVP. And we saw last year with him gone, there was a clear a lack I didn't appreciate until it was too late. I think he can really improve this team. I don't see a lot. The defense isn't great. It's not a perfect team, but I think Garoppolo, Pierre Garçon, Marquise Goodwin, the running backs that they have, Jerick McKinnon, he'll be fine. Kittle's hurt. That's unfortunate, but they'll make
Kittle be Timbers!
and sort of a ragtag defense. That's enough to drag you over the line of 8.5 wins, I think. And even though I picked the Rams to win the Super Bowl, I think there's value on betting the Niners to win the division at plus 275, just as a hedge in case a couple of injuries or something happens to the Rams or whatever. That's a reasonable hedge. You have almost 3-1 on your money.
Guess my question is, what is totally different between the Niners and the Seahawks, Geoff? Like, really, as a team. They're both 8.5 win totals. One is, like Tim said, plus 275 to win the division. The Seahawks are plus 425. So obviously people like the Niners better. They're a team that finished out. This is a classic Miami Dolphins move. Be shit the entire year, and then win your last 4 games. Everyone's like, you know who's going to be a sleeper? The Miami Dolphins. Then they lose their first 8 games to start the season.
Chargers are pretty good at that MO also. I would say that at a lot of core areas, I'm a bigger fan of the 49ers. I think their offensive line is better. I didn't even think it was a weakness, and they went out and used the 9th overall pick and then traded their guard. I thought they should have used that pick on like Tremaine Edmonds or one of those great defensive players that went in that 9 to 17 range with it in the draft. So that kind of disappointed me. But I see what you're saying. I don't see them winning double-digit games. So for me, are they getting to 9 wins?
Maybe. They might get to 10. They might get to 9.
I'm going to pick the under, but I like what's happening there, and there's reason
That
to
tackle
be
they took
excited.
at 9 is going to be a star in this league.
Let
Let
me guess. He played for Notre Dame?
He did, and that's why you know.
McGillicuddy.
Yeah, Tim only likes players that went to Notre Dame. They're all great, apparently.
Well, if you go 9th overall, you're probably pretty good. McGlinchey.
Is that what we're going with now? That if you go inside the top 10 of the NFL draft, you're of course really good? Because that's not a. Yeah, what about Vernon Golston? Is he any good, Tim?
I don't want to talk about that. Some of us can't help ourselves but talk about our teams on an NFC podcast. Others of us are trying to hold our fire.
Well, I mean, if you just want to make really ridiculously bold claims that aren't true, you might as well be called out on it from time to time.
It happens all the time.
This is true. Well, maybe you should be more factual instead of just have hot takes.
I haven't said anything yet.
I know.
You mentioned the Chargers
you mentioned the
4
Chargers.
times.
Yeah, you have mentioned the Chargers.
They
3
played
times.
Seattle in a preseason game last week.
For how the Chargers are like the Dolphins and like the Niners.
What do? They finish the season hot and they start cold. It's like obvious.
I'm going to take the under on the Niners. Geoff?
Yeah, I said under because I kind of think 9 to me is. People might think I'm underselling them by saying 9 is best case scenario, but I don't really see double digits, so I'll take my chances and say
The offense would have to be really good for them to get to, like, astonishingly good. Like, Jimmy G would have to live up to every expectation that Tim has for him. Do you like that he's dating porn stars?
I don't think that's real.
As long as he's not dating a Kardashian, I don't care who he dates.
What if he was? And then all of a sudden...
That would be a problem. That would be a problem.
Why would that be a problem?
There's an inverse relationship between athletes' athletic performance and having dated or been with a Kardashian.
I agree with that.
So as long
I
as
wouldn't want any. Now that the Chargers are in LA, they could be time 5.
Time 5.
They could be more susceptible to finding a Kardashian. I don't like that one bit.
All right, NFC South, Atlanta, win total 9.5, -120 to hit the over, -110 to hit the under. This is basically that there's your juice. There's your 30 cents right there that the books are taking from you. To win the division, +180. To win the conference, 10-1. To win the Super Bowl, 18-1. Of all the teams in the NFC, this is my favorite over. I think Atlanta is a top 3 team in the NFC. I think that they probably end up... I don't know if they go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, but they almost did it.
The Super Bowl's in Atlanta this year.
They almost did it last year, and they wildly underachieved on offense. They were down almost 14 points per game on the offensive side of the ball. And yeah, maybe that's year 1 going from Shanahan to Steve Sarkisian. Maybe he was drunk on the sidelines like he was at USC. Who knows? But just by normal regression, like positive, to go back to the mean from down to up, you score like 6 more points a game. This is a 12-14. This defense, sneaky athletic, like pretty good.
Yeah, my little point form note beside Atlanta, because I got ones for all of them. Still a big fan. I really like people sort of want to get off of what's been happening there. I'm not willing to. You mentioned they were down in their points per game, which is really interesting because I still think their drives were effective because they were really high on
field goals for one thing,
but
they were getting to the red zone.
Yards per play
and yards per drive
is something that the analytics people absolutely love, which they were still always willing to, advising if someone wanted to trade you Julio or Matt Ryan, like really think about that, look into that from a fantasy perspective. I'm still buying in there. I'd love the draft pick of Calvin Ridley and how this league goes, and you can never have too many options and to play opposite of Julio and even give them some leverage in a lot of the stuff Julio's trying to get away with. Now, contractually, I'm a big fan of what's going on there. I think it is, bar none, the best division in the league, and you see it with the...
I don't know about that.
The odds to win.
I don't agree.
Well, because they have worst place in the division. But other than that, these are 3 fantastic...
let's not get crazy.
They got 3 fantastic football teams, and one of them might be the best in football, and that's not Atlanta. But I'll say over Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I like the over 9.5, I like the 180, and I like the 10-1 to win the conference. Those are 3 bets that I'll probably end up making. Tim, what do you make of Atlanta?
Home Super Bowl.
So I'm more tepid than you guys. I will take the over barely, but like if we look at DVOA last year, which I think is, I always think is really important.
Hold,
You're the worst, man.
Hold on just a second on this DVOA stuff. You only choose to believe DVOA when it backs your point. Yeah. When it is the counter to your point, you said, even on the show last year, fake news, DVOA.
Dismisses DVOA. It's easily dismissed when it's counter to Tim's point. But this centerpiece of his arguments when it works for him.
Yes.
Incredible.
So continue, Tim, and now that people know that how you use DVOA to twist.
I mean, Lord Maynard Keynes said, I change my opinion when the facts change. What do you do?
But you don't. Do you choose to believe it, then you choose not to believe it. Whenever it says like the Patriots are the number 1 team, you're like, they're not the number 1 team.
Yeah, or William James says the truth happens to an idea that's not in an idea. It's the same thing. Listen, the defense is all. I think you're overrating the defense. I think it is a bottom 3rd defense. The offense is great. It was 9th overall last year in terms of DVOA. I was kind of torn on it. I think 9.5 is a really fair number. I took 10, so I guess I shade it very slightly to the over, but if they finish 9-7, that wouldn't shock me either. In part because there's a team in this division that's going to the NFC Championship game, which is a beast, and it is not the Atlanta Falcons.
All right, well, let's get to that team. Unless you really, I can assure you, Tim hates Cam, so it's not going to be the Panthers.
I mean,
the Nollan Saints 9.5. To bet the over, -120. To bet the under, -110. To win the division, same as Atlanta, +180. 12-1 to win the conference, 18-1 to win the Super Bowl. So, Tim, you believe this is the team? I think they might go under.
I love this team.
I think they wildly overachieved last year.
I absolutely adore this team. I think Drew Brees is going to be the NFL MVP. I mean, where do I begin? I mean, the running backs, great. Sean Payton, still a great head coach. Michael Thomas, one of the 2 or 3 best receivers in football. That defense showed significant improvements in 2018. They were according to DVOA, this was the best team in football last year. They were number 1, and I buy that. They had a top 10 defense and a top 5 offense. And I don't think they've gotten worse in any position. They got rid of Mark Ingram, which is good for the first few games. That's worth a win in and of itself.
I would tend to agree with that.
Like I said with the Rams, with the Saints, I don't see any problems with it. This team would have gone to the NFC Championship game had it not been for a crazy, ridiculous, bonehead decision not to cover what was essentially an out-of-bounds throw to set up a long field goal. Like, this team just had a complete brain fart at the last second, or it probably would have beaten the Eagles and gone to the Super Bowl. It took a weird confluence of events to keep them out of that game.
Now, hold on. You may be misremembering this. I don't know if it was a bonehead play or not, but can you walk me through the last few seconds of that game and what you were up to at that time, declaring what over?
I was taking a victory lap because on this show, before the game, I predicted it 24-23 New Orleans, which was the exact score before the Minneapolis.
And then you took, before the game had reached its conclusion, you took to the interwebs, Tim, and started bragging about how smart you were.
He was DMing me for credit with like 4 minutes left in the game. I swear I could probably find it, and I bet you I wasn't the only one.
I plead guilty to all of this.
And then what happens? Something that is unimaginable happens. What big shocker.
Oh, great stuff.
I adore this team.
I'm with
Poke
him.
holes in the argument I've just made.
I will not. Should I piggyback or let you poke holes first?
There's not a ton of holes to poke, but I mean, if he says that Drew Brees is winning NFL MVP, this team's going under, by the way.
Okay, that's a great point.
Because if they're going to be an elite team, they're going to do it the same way they did last year. Use Lattimore to shut down the best receiver on each team, establish a lead early, and run the ball down the fucking throats of the other team.
I love this team. They made additions on defense that I absolutely love. Cam Meredith.
That's offense.
Sorry. But they added Pat Robinson, and they added Buddy from the Jets, who always got my attention, Demario Davis. I think this
very lovely play.
This team got better where it needed to get better. Big picture, I'm not the biggest fan of what they did on draft day, but for making a pick or for 2018 season to get that pass rusher, Marcus Davenport, I thought was outstanding. I'm buying New Orleans. They might be the best team in football. As we sit here in August, I think they might be the best team in football. In a very crowded conference, it says a lot. Division and conference, and they would be in their comfort zone getting to play in that Super Bowl in Atlanta.
I'm going to go over as well. I think they're the wild card team from this division because I'm kind of down on Carolina just a little bit. Tough strength of schedule, bad offensive line, all that sort of stuff. And even per DVOA and adjusted rushing yards, the offensive line of New Orleans is very good too. I just happen to think defensively, maybe they overachieved last year. Maybe they're not a top 10
But they added the pass rusher.
Sure, they can add whoever they want.
They added a
We
linebacker.
see this when we see year-to-year defenses. There are very few holdovers, except for the very truly elite ones that can maintain it, like we saw the Bills.
They like relief pitchers?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, the schemes on defense, teams can adjust. I mean, some of it's based on the schedule that you played. Some of it's based on the opposing head coaches that you played that they're not able to adjust to. It's more consistent that it's easier to have a more consistent offense year to year to year than it is to have a consistent defense. And I think that if something like Tim says that Drew Brees wins MVP, that means they do hit the over because they wouldn't give it to a team that was under
No,
18.
but to your point, like Drew Brees having a phenomenal
Yes.
statistical
So if the
season
defense
is bad.
isn't as good, I'm not going to say it's bad. Let's say it's not top 10. Let's say it's somewhere between like 15 and 20. You're not establishing these big leads early in games where you can then just turn around and throw the ball, or turn around and run the ball down the throats, control the clock, give your defense a rest, and make your offense incredibly efficient. Like Kamara, for one thing, is not going to rush for 9 yards per carry again. That's not going to happen. He can be great, that's fine, but the efficiency that he ran at and caught at last year just simply isn't going to happen again. So maybe these games are a little bit closer when you start playing closer games. Jeff, as you know, as a Chargers fan, maybe that goes against you from time to time. Maybe you end up,
you leave the poor guy alone.
Maybe you end up on the bad end of the coin flip once you start playing closer games. So if the defense isn't as good as it was last season, and they're playing in closer games, and they can't run the ball, and they're forced to throw again like 45 times a game, like the old Saints, they could be 8-8 very easily. That would be my that would be my counter. I am going to take the over. I think they're a 10-win team, but that is not out of the realm of possibility. That's in their range of outcomes.
Fine, and I can acknowledge that. But as we stand now, looking at that team, I guess shaping up for the season, they're my favorite in the conference.
Division, conference, Super Bowl, those are good odds for all of them.
Carolina, 8.5 is the win total. -120 to bet the over. -110 to bet the under. 260 to win the division. 12-1 to win the conference. To win the Super Bowl, 25-1. I think they have a tough schedule. I don't love their offense. I don't like the idea of giving Christian McCaffrey the ball 30 times a game, and I'm not sold on their defense. Under.
I worry about. I want to give them credit by saying they went 11-5 last year, and they dealt with a lot from an injury perspective. I don't even know if that ownership stuff was in season or whatever, but they dealt with a lot and still won 11 games. So in that division, so I'm tempted to be like, okay, that deserves credit and maybe a double take, but someone's gonna have to break, and I don't think it's Atlanta or New Orleans. So if I gotta pick it, I wish an 8.5 though. I do think they're better than a 500 team.
Yeah, but they could easily be 7-9. They could easily be 12-4. They could be 11-5. They could be 6-10 if things don't break their way. Like if
I actually think Cam Newton's being undersold.
I kind of agree with you, but like, are you sold on this defense?
I don't.
And can Cam stay upright if they literally have no one to block for him now? Everyone's hurt on their offensive line. They've already lost 3. We're not even week 1 yet.
Yeah.
So just if you have to pick the odd team out of this big 3, I think it's Carolina.
I'll agree. I will take the under. I wish it was like a 9 flat, but the books aren't fools.
No. And Tim will pick the under because he hates Cam.
Yeah, but not by much. I mean, I have them as 7 wins and 9 losses. What you said, they've got some injuries. Now, I really like their new offensive coordinator. I think he's a real leader of men. Doesn't get the respect he deserves. But nevertheless, I think he's too reliant, Norv Turner, on running the ball. With an offense that just isn't suited to the sort of like constantly handing the ball off. So I don't know that he's a great match for what Carolina wants to do. I mean, that's by no means an original point. But the defense last year was top 10. I think the defense is still really good. I think they'll be able to hang around in enough games to compete to be around 8-8, 7-9, 9-7. I don't think it's an unfair number, but because I like the over with the Falcons and the Saints, I got to play an under somewhere here. And like you guys said, Carolina just seems like the logical move.
Let's say Luke Kuechly gets a concussion. Does he ever play again?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is probably, but he has to be right on that verge of, like, he had a concussion like the past 8 years now?
Yeah, it's deeply unfortunate.
So
such a marvelous middle linebacker.
And that's the thing. I think a lot hinges on the key to that defense is clearly him. And without him, just they're not as good. We see it every year when he sits. And I think he's almost entered the Jordan Reed conversation of you just expect him to get hurt at some point.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what Dallas is going to get? 16 games from Sean Lee. It's not going to happen. So
I agree.
Under. So Tampa Bay is the next one up. 6.5 is the win total. No Jameis for the first 3 games. Bad Uber rating too. Even money for the over. -130 for the under. 7-1 to win the division. 33-1 to win the conference. To win the Super Bowl, 66-1. I'm surprised this is only -130 to the under. This screams under to me.
Might be my favorite one in the entire conference, if not the entire league. I think this team could battle for picking first overall. every year, Pat, we see a veteran-laden football team that just all goes to shits. And I think Tampa is a front-runner candidate. Dirk Cutter is a lame duck coach. It doesn't even happen in the NFL. The cost of doing business in the National Football League is just putting more years on a coach that even if you think he might fire, you know a lame duck coach is death. At least that's how people seem to perceive it. Tampa doesn't seem to care. The Jameis thing, Fitzpatrick.
Here's the one thing I'll say.
I don't think it helped.
I don't think that there's that big of a difference, at least for a 3-game sample, than Jameis to Fitzpatrick.
Sure.
No, I agree.
But I think this team might be the worst. The defense is it's a veteran team that I think it's going to all go to shits.
Well, here's the thing. Ryan Fitzpatrick currently is on a 1-year deal. And he has 3 games in order to get another 6-year, $70 million deal. So, Tim, I've lived through this. Tim, you've lived through this. What does the Fitzmagic do when there's no pressure on him? He's just out there chucking.
He's I don't know if he went to Harvard.
It's never been brought up. That is true.
Yeah, interesting factoid. That's what you learn here on the Pat Mayo Experience. I'm sure he'll play fine. I mean, they have a really tough schedule to start. I mean, they'll probably lose all of their first 3 games. I'm kind of on board with Geoff, which is what terrifies me. If this was a game, we'd call it a trap game because the number seems really off. But I'm going to be a sucker and play the under. I had them at 4 wins and 12 losses. So, I mean, I don't like them this year. I see nothing redeeming about this team. Dirk Cutter, again, last year everyone thought he was going to get fired, sort of like Marvin Lewis can't get fired. I don't know. I have nothing positive to say about this team other than I think Mike Evans has a really nice rebound season with fantasy.
See, I don't think so in terms of fantasy with Mike Evans, but I do like how this offense shapes up. And it's nothing against Mike Evans. I just think they have a lot of weapons in the receiving game. Like Chris Godwin is now going to start on the outside. It looks like they're moving D-Jax into the slot. They can play Brayton Howard at the same time. They got a lot of big bodies. And I think the passing offense might be good, but I'm with you. I don't see how this defense holds up.
Yeah. It was the last rated defense in football last year.
Nowhere to go but up.
That's fair, I suppose.
NFC North. This is actually what I think is the best division in football. Minnesota is the favorite in this division, the co-favorite in this division. 10.5 wins is what Minnesota is projected at right now. Plus 120 to bet the over of 10.5. Minus 150 to bet the under. Plus 137 to win the division. 7-1 to win the conference. 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. Now, Tim, before Kirk Cousins signed with Minnesota, had rated Kirk Cousins as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. When it looked like he was going to sign with the Jets. Now, Tim, where would you rate Kirk Cousins as a quarterback in the NFL?
Bottom rung.
So apparently he's not good anymore because he went to Minnesota. Yeah, and now he's wrong. He's learned his lesson after he scored the Jets for less money, and now he's on the Vikings.
This preening fraud of a team made the playoffs last year because they injured Aaron Rodgers' shoulder in a division game and were able to make the playoffs because of it. And then with a great opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, all they had to do was beat a backup quarterback. And they got beaten 34-7. There is nothing outside of a couple of players on this team like Harrison Smith or Kyle Rudolph. There is very little redeeming about this team. I think Thielen's okay. I think Diggs is okay.
I like how Rudolph's the second.
Well, I mean, the two Notre Dame players on the team are really the core.
I think Dalvin Cook coming off a severe injury. I have no faith that he's going to have a big year whatsoever. I think Kirk Cousins is an out-and-out fraud and will be exposed as so. You don't have a team. Let your star QB walk out the door the way the Redskins did. The Redskins made no serious effort to ever try to re-sign him, ever do it over the last several years. And we saw it 2 years ago when Washington had a chance to make the playoffs, and it was a big moment. What did Kirk Cousins do? What he always does. He folded up his tent, and he went home and threw multiple interceptions against the Giants. This is not a quarterback in whom one can trust. His one playoff game, he gave up a big lead at home against the Packers. I just think that this team, I think Mike Zimmer's an okay defensive coach. I think their defense will be okay. I picked them to have 8 wins and 8 losses, so I don't think they're going to have a losing record by any means. But people seem to forget that this team last year succeeded primarily because the best player in the NFL was hurt. Now that he's back and he plays them twice a year, it will take all one's effort to argue that the Vikings will defeat that Packers team. I do not believe it will happen. and I think they will go back to the mediocrity at which the quarterback they have dictates that they should be.
I'm not completely far off.
I
I mean,
think they're
some
over-
of the stuff he said is just asinine, but in this defense, like, where did they rate per DVOA in defense last year, Tim?
The Vikings were second according to DVOA.
But they have a bad defense, and all the other teams that rated
I
inside
didn't
the
say they
top
had a
10.
bad defense.
You said they were going to be good. So
I said their defense would be okay.
some teams that are inside the top 10 that you like, their defense is going to stay the same, but the Vikings are going to be substantially worse because you don't like them, despite the fact that they have
Not
the second-ranked
substantially
defense.
worse, no.
So if they have a top 10 defense, they should get around 10, 11, 12 wins, shouldn't they?
No, I don't agree. I think that they'll win 8 games, which is okay, but they're going to lose both games to the Packers. And they play a first-place schedule this year, which they didn't have the benefit of playing last year. So that matters, too.
Geoff, where do you fall on this? Because I'm somewhere 10.5 is a lot. I don't like to bet. The only team to really bet like these double-digit win totals with is like the Patriots.
And there's so few teams that actually have this number, and we'll get to it in a different show.
Yeah,
But
it's them, it's the Packers,
the
Steelers,
got
Philly,
one.
and Patriots are the
I
5
think
teams.
overall they're overrated. Like you said, there are some things Tim said that I do agree with. He kind of goes overboard. He goes a little bit overboard. How Kyle Rudolph's the second best player on this team is beyond me. I'm gonna say under. I'm not as comfortable about it as Tim. I just think the public perception of them is a bit overrated at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not big on taking double-digit overs either, so I'll go under. I think this is a playoff team. I think they could definitely win the division. Yeah. And a lot of that depends on Aaron Rodgers and really the defense of the Packers. So we'll get to the Packers. They're also 10.5. Same odds to win the division, plus 137, 5-1 to win the conference, 9-1 to win the Super Bowl. And it's funny because they have the same division odds, same win total, yet the conference and Super Bowl odds are lower for Green Bay than they are for Minnesota, simply because they're Green Bay and they're a very public team. But Aaron Rodgers, back healthy, that's usually good for 10 wins right off the hop, isn't it?
I would say so. And my main takeaway with the Packers is probably the same as it was last year. Ted Thompson, to me, is one of the most pathetic general managers in the National Football League. He lives by Aaron Rodgers. They should be doing so much more to be capitalizing on this talent and the window of his career. But they really choose not to. Their idea of trying to capitalize him is Jimmy Graham. Guy can barely walk. No, it is so pathetic. He's not, I get it. They're Green Bay. They're not LA. They're not trying to fill a stadium. They shouldn't be doing those types of things. That's not what I'm suggesting they do. But like, God, man.
They might trade for Khalil Mack.
This guy's career he's like the Dustin Johnson of the PGA Tour, of the NFL.
He's just the best?
He's the best, but in the end, there's just going to be one to show for it. So be like, what? How did that happen?
Well, it's a good thing he has it, or people would, 20 years from now, when Aaron Rodgers retires, when he has broken, every record, they'll be like, he sucked!
I think
he couldn't win!
I'll tell you this, and it's got nothing to do, and there's a big contract thing that hopefully, will rear its head into the season if it's not resolved, and he can ask for whatever he wants, and the guaranteed money times 2 that Cousins got, you'd almost think that he's worth. That being said, I think this organization as a whole has done so wrong by him and so wrong by the fans for not doing all they can to make the team as good as it can be in the years that he is an MVP caliber year in, year out player.
So you're going under?
I think he's worth 10 games, so I'll say 11.
Yeah, I'm going to go over with them too.
But I still don't think they're doing enough.
I don't think they are either.
I don't think they've done enough.
But they have him, and that's all that matters.
And then you watch them last year without him. My point being is,
They were
without
pathetic.
him, they have a Cleveland Browns 2017 type talent.
Although, in fairness, they beat the Cleveland Browns
In
All
OT,
right.
or
in
something?
OT because Tim declared the game was
Over.
where Cleveland was up by 20. And then Green Bay won in overtime.
because they scored a touchdown in overtime.
I'm just saying, you saw the talent that's there without him. It's bad.
Well, I never understood the Jimmy Graham thing. Listen, Jimmy Graham's fine. He'll be a good red zone
Sure.
presence, and they get rid of Jordy Nelson, so it's a wash. I just never understood why they spend on offense. He makes bad receivers good. Just spend all your money on defense. You devote everything to offensive line, keeping him upright, and defense. Let the rest figure itself out. I'm going to go over because I do think that he's worth 10 wins. Maybe they'll fluke into, but if he gets hurt, like, they're fucked.
Sure. Again, that's you can't even think like that.
Tim?
Yeah. I think he's good for 11 wins. And if he's up and perpendicular and playing football against an overrated Bears team, a mediocre Lions team, a very mediocre Vikings team, I just think the wins are there.
Let's go to Detroit. Mediocre might be right. I like the over 7.5 wins for the Lions. They are no one can figure out what to do with them at 7.5. It's -115 for the over, -115 for the under, 6-1 to win the division, 20-1 to win the conference. They are 40-1 to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, they were 9-7 last year, but I was at that Week 17 game when they waxed the Packers. Like, that doesn't happen unless the Packers have already clinched the division, kind of thing. If it happened again this year, or Aaron Rodgers is hurt, but I think they're an 8-8, 9-7 team. I like their offense. I think Kenny Golladay could break out. Maybe they figured out what to do in the backfield. Stafford's good. The defense isn't horrible.
They just have horrible linebackers. I really like a lot about this team other than the linebacking unit. You could you could go up the seam on them, whether it's your backs out of the backfield or the tight ends up the gut. They can't cover any of these people. Hopefully Patricia can change that.
Oh, I forgot it's Patricia. That might be worth an under because he might be a terrible coach.
That's a real wild card.
He's not helping anyone's defense.
Well, he's a defensive-minded
Oh, yeah.
guy.
They just like the Patriots' great defense for the past 3 years. Top-notch stuff there, Matt.
Yeah, no, I 7.5. It's like right.
It's there. It's a good number.
They're going to be playing Week 17 for this ticket.
So then ask yourself, what will make you happier? Needing to hope for the Lions to win, or needing to hope for the Lions to lose? I would be far happier holding a ticket where I need a stupid team in Detroit to not win a game, rather than need them to win a game. So I would be playing the under here.
What are you gonna do? You're the tiebreaker here, Geoff. You going over or under 7.5?
It's an 8-8 season,
so
I'll
over.
stick to it. I don't feel good about it.
I actually don't mind it. I think their offense is really good. Do you think that Jim Bob Cooter? I mean, people really wouldn't know who he was unless he had an awesome name, which he does. That's why people talk about him. But I don't want to say mastermind on offense, but he runs an incredibly efficient offense. I think that he'll be a head coach soon.
Just help me, refresh me. Did they get a back there? Because aren't we going on the crazy streak of no 100?
They drafted Kerryon Johnson. They signed LeGarrette Blount. Theo Riddick, who I'm sure, according to Tim, is a lovely player, is also in the backfield. They're keeping Amir Abdullah around. Like, if you have Kerryon Johnson, he's any good, and he can go, but he can actually be a good Amir Abdullah and run between
Blount
the 20s.
gets 3rd and 2 for you. Keeps you on the field.
They're going to get ruined in Week 1, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, they're
Who
playing
do
the
they
Jets
play?
Monday night.
Monday night
in Detroit. Nice field, by the way, Ford Field.
I remember when the schedule came out, Tim was all like, we're like one of the faces of the league. We're being put on Monday night. Like, no, you're playing the Lions. Monday night's a second-rate game in 2018. Just is what it is. 8-8. So, gun to my head, I guess that's over.
Over, under for Tim. Chicago.
Love them.
Yeah, so does everyone. 6.5.
I don't.
6.5 wins to bet the over is -135, plus 105 to bet the under, 7-1 to win the division, 50-1 to win the conference, 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. I will fade the public on this one. I'm not buying all this hype. The division's too good.
No, I agree with
Under,
that.
6.5.
Listen, I'll say this about them.
I'll say this about that.
I might be not sold on 6.5 because you're right. That feels like one that's risen, not like the VIG. That feels like a line that had to move.
Maybe it was set something different in April, but like people are just the only narrative that I continue to hear about Chicago is how they're basically this year's Rams. Nagy's going to go to Chicago. Trubisky's going to take a leap like Goff did, and the offense will be solved. I like the pieces they have, and I think their defense is actually quite solid, but I think it's just a big ask.
No, that is a huge ask, and 7 wins might be a big ask. But I'll say this. This team competed, I got to give credit, kind of like the Jets last year, like to win the number of games they won and to think about the games they lost.
Yeah, like week 1 against Atlanta.
They should have won. There's a few in there as well. Yeah, the Jordan Howard drop versus Atlanta. There's at least kind of a few games like that. So the compete level was beyond impressive. John Fox, like the worst coach. He was like what Jeff Fisher had become, kind of.
I think he's like worse than Jeff Fisher.
And
that's saying a lot.
Part of that is now the Rams narrative, right?
It's possible for formerly good coaches to become like crazies.
Sure, and listen, I just think that
If the
there's
Lions-
too much narrative baked in with the Bears this year. I think they're going to compete. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I think getting 7 or more wins is a lot of wins, especially when you have to play Minnesota twice, Green Bay twice, Detroit twice, and Tim, you said that they're playing the NFC West as well?
I don't think I said that. I'll look that up.
Oh, I thought
No,
you
because we saw Arizona was playing two North teams.
Yeah, they're playing the Bears. Yeah, so I guess they would play each other. You're correct.
I'll say this: if the Lions had the Bears linebackers, I might pick the Lions to win the division. The kid they drafted, I think, is as good as advertised, even though there's been a contract thing. Trevathan, when he got hurt, you saw that team, at least interior on the defense, kind of be different. Their O-line is amazing. So they will compete. 7 wins. It's a lot. I'm not buying this. They're the next Rams. But asking them to win 7 games, you're not asking them to be the next Rams either.
I don't think 7's out of the question by any means. They clearly have the talent to do it. I just think it's a big ask year 1 with Nagy. I just do. Maybe Trubisky's not that good. Did we think about that? Because if he's not, they're not getting the 7 wins.
Yeah, let me be blunt.
I
don't like Trubisky.
You don't like Trubisky?
I don't like Trubisky. Therefore, I don't think this is a team that can be like the Rams. I don't think this is a team that will get to the over. I actually like the under plus 105. It's one of my best bets. I have them with 4 wins, 12 losses. I think they're very over. If I had laid hands to bless the Rams and Saints, I am doing the exact opposite for teams like the Vikings and Bears. I have no faith in these teams.
So we're double under. What are you going?
I got 6 and 10, and when I've been on the fence, I've just been sticking with what I projected. That's a big ask from Vegas to ask them to flirt with 500.
Not only are they asking him to flirt with 500, you got to pay money to bet the over.
Yeah,
You're getting money to bet the under. People are so... When we get to the AFC, and I think it's a bit of a different situation because I think the Bears are better, but everyone's just fucking sucking off the Browns. Like, give me a break.
I could say good, but I said good things about the Bears.
I think the Bears are significantly better than the Browns.
I don't know if they're...
maybe they're both bad.
That's the whole thing. And I don't think Chicago's
Who wins
bad.
more games? You think the Bears win more games?
Yeah, the Bears play in a harder division and they'll win more games.
I actually agree because I have the Bears at 5 and 11. I have the Browns at fewer wins. So yeah.
All right, NFC East, the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, 10.5 wins. To bet the over of 10.5 plus money, plus 110, minus 140 to bet the under. No word yet on whether Carson Wentz will start, at least of this recording, whether he'll start week 1, but it looks like he's at least in line to come back week 2. Foles and his collarbone seem to be fine. He's going to play in the 3rd preseason game, which has not happened as we're recording this, but he's expected to play. But Wentz could be back week 1. He could be back week 3. I don't really care. I don't love the other teams in this division a lot. Like, to win the division, they're minus 170. To win the conference, they're 5-1. To win the Super Bowl, they're 9-1. I'm not really interested in maybe the division odds. I don't want to bet the minus 170. I'm not big on the conference or the Super Bowl, but like to win 11 games, they might have gotten better. Now, things might break not as well as they did last year for them, although they did lose their MVP quarterback, 70% through the season, and maybe teams can adjust to Nick Foles or he turns into a pumpkin again. But it might not matter if Wentz is back and healthy for 15 games. Like I like the over on the Eagles here. I think they coast.
Yeah, I think I will say I think the only team that's even going to even slightly push them is the Skins, and I don't think they're going to push them that hard. I like Philadelphia. Like they were 13-3 last year. I think they're going to be 13-3 again this year, and it's not because I think they're like the world's best team. I just think they're in a plum situation where they are just collecting wins because they play a lot of bad teams. They're really good top to bottom.
My only concern for them not getting this number is like a hangover.
Don't we usually see that from the team that loses in the Super Bowl?
Agreed, but it kind of feels like, and some early season quarterback health issues, but I would pick them. I've got 11-5 on the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not really high on anyone else for the most part in...
That's part of it too with me. Like I'm not really
in
big
the
on
group,
any
but
of
there
the
are
other
injury concerns there. The quarterbacks, Jeffrey could start the year on PUP.
Yeah, but I think that they can get
deep
through.
enough.
They're deep enough. They're balanced enough. And they scheme well enough. And the other teams in the division are like stupid.
Yeah. When we go through all of them, you can make the case that is exactly what has happened.
And I don't think they're going to go 6-0 in the division because division games are tough. But give them 5 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, they can get the rest somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all over? Round of overs on the...
They cross over versus the South, I guess, for
That's
what it's
tough.
worth. Yeah.
But
Who do they play out of the gate? Do you have schedules in front of you? I'm just curious.
Atlanta on
they play
opening
Atlanta.
night.
I actually like Atlanta. in
I
that
am
game.
going to bet. Is that Sunday night?
No, it's Thursday,
Thursday night.
It's,
Oh, but it's the Bear.
it's 3.5. You get 3.5 to bet Atlanta.
I'll probably be playing the Eagles in that game.
I'll be
See,
playing the
2
Falcons
years
in
ago,
that game.
Carolina played Denver, and I was like, this is a revenge game. They're going to get them. They didn't get them one bit.
No,
They got smoked.
Casey smoked New England last year.
Was that
on
a
Thursday
revenge
night.
game?
No,
It was just
yeah.
a scheduled game.
No, the Patriots eliminated the Chiefs the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, so, okay, we'll get there soon enough. But
So round of overs on Philly?
yeah, but I got them 0-1.
Hopefully they can rebound. Dallas, 8.5. And this is close. -110 to bet the over. -120 to bet the under. 333 to win the division. 10-1 to win the conference. 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. What am I missing with this? Shouldn't this win total be like 5.5? Like
Yes, Dallas screwed me last year.
How's Dallas
super
good?
good.
They were my best bet for under last year. Like, they weren't good. Yeah, Zeke ended up missing time, but like, just because you have Zeke, and let's say he's healthy for 16 games, yes, he's good. Like, is he worth that many wins to this team? Like, no.
I'll say this. What happened there this offseason is one of the most, like, gutless signs of a franchise, and it makes sense that Jerry Jones would be behind it. They fired the entire staff but Garrett and the coordinators. Every other coach got canned there.
Until they replace Garrett as head coach, I'm betting them under.
Marinelli and Linehan
Smelly Marinelli
are the coordinators, and Garrett kept his job. Mind-boggling to me.
This team is playing on
scapegoat.
This team is playing on the fringes as it is. They encounter any injury problem, it's over.
Because Jerry, he's just trying to save his ass because he's been beholden to Garrett for so long that firing him would make Jerry, I guess, like, oh, you were wrong. No,
Jerry doesn't like firing people.
You just got to do what's right. But the gutless thing to do is to just fire the staff and
Dez. They basically fired Dez as well, and then screwed him over for free agency.
Yes, they did that. I'll say this: the
one thing plans for Jason Witten retirement.
The one thing I'm excited about the Dallas Cowboys about this year is the defense. I think there are some exciting pieces on the defense that can finally be healthy.
If you think that
the Notre Dame guy who had the horrible draft,
he's a lovely
situation,
lovely player.
So I'm sure
Jalen Smith.
Yeah, I think he can be healthy and make an impact.
Yeah, he's a star.
Randall Gregory, I think so. There's some parts of the defense that I think are being undersold, and the O-line did regress last year.
They're still a top. At worst, they're a top 5 offensive line. At worst.
Yeah, and it looks like they haven't lost Zach Martin for the season, so that's big.
No, that's huge, and the loss of Witten, sort of
it may help them. Who knows? They might play Uncle Rico.
I don't think that's a big deal.
I think this is a big year for Dak,
but he has no weapons. Like, they're gonna have to give the ball to Zeke 40 times a game. Who the hell is he throwing to? Alan Hearns?
I got
Michael Gallup.
I'm shocked this team had a winning record last year. I think I just forgot that they had 9 wins because they had so many problems.
But like the Giants were really bad last year. The Skins weren't good, so you pile up wins there.
And plus, this Cowboys team screwed me last year when I picked them to make the Super Bowl. They didn't make the playoffs, so I have that extra bitterness working against me with them.
Good luck.
I want nothing to do with them.
I'm going under on the 8.5 for Dallas.
Yeah, joining you.
Now maybe Dak rebounds from a sophomore slump. Maybe he's awesome. Maybe these receivers are better than we think. And this offense,
they're not.
This is fluid.
Here's the thing.
And they're good. Who knows?
I think Washington is the second best team in that division. There is not room for 2 teams to finish over 500. There are just not enough wins. Based on that, I don't hate Dallas like a lot of people do. I think they're probably better. I think they're probably better than you think they are, but I don't have them. There's not a second over 500 team here. Therefore, it's an under.
New York Giants, 6.5 is the over-under. -160 to bet the over, +130 to bet the under. 6.5 to win the division, 28-1 to win the conference, 40-1 to win the Super Bowl. I don't think the Giants are necessarily good, but I'd be far more inclined to take the over 6.5 for them than the over 8.5 for Dallas. Like, I don't see a huge gap between those. Maybe Barkley's awesome. Maybe Beckham back healthy. Really, maybe this will just maybe having great players who are healthy around Eli will make him not seem like he's the worst.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham, the tight end.
Ingram.
They are loaded.
They went out and got offensive linemen.
Pat Shurmur is competent.
I will say this, though, and it's a different discussion. I still think I would have taken Darnold. I'm such a big Darnold fan. I still think in the end they might regret passing on him. But as Barkley will do more for them for hitting this win total in 2018. And like, are they the 2000? They're somewhere between 2016 and 2017. They're not nearly as bad as they were last year. They're not nearly as good as they were that year. They made the playoffs and kind of surprised
I'm leaning
everybody.
over. I wouldn't bet the minus 160 that goes along with it.
I'm leaning under.
You're not picking them to win the Super Bowl this year?
No, that was a bad pick, sir. The Giants Patriots round 3 did not happen for me. I got one half of it right, though.
9 losses.
So you're going over? Me and you are
very
over?
slight over. I wouldn't recommend betting it, but it's a slight over.
Under.
All right. I mean, the plus 130 for the under.
I could see it.
Under.
Washington.
If Eli gets hurt, you talk about a team that really has nothing.
You see, you say that, but if we're all just talking about Eli like he's trash anyway, is it really that big of a downgrade if he goes down?
I mean, you guys
Eli is at least a competent, he's not a complete and total disaster.
Okay, let's say, and maybe you can make a New York for New York trade here, Tim. Let's say the Jets trade for Teddy B.
Sure. Give me a second round pick and it's done.
Yeah, but let's say Teddy Bridgewater's the starting quarterback for this team. Would that make?
I think that team could vie for 8 games, maybe 9 games.
I think they could be a playoff team with Teddy B.
They would have a chance at it. I think the NFC is a bit too stacked for that. But going into the next season, yeah, the Giants certainly could be.
It's going to be awesome when Teddy B's the Jets' best quarterback and they never play him.
I've just got to make my 6th reference of the show.
Okay, go ahead.
It would mean so much to me personally for Eli to bottom out and for the Chargers to do what some people think that they might be capable of. And I'm not talking about all of it. Just a show.
If Rivers gets one, let's say the Chargers win the Super Bowl. Let's live in your world, Jeff.
It's not happening.
Rivers wins the Super Bowl. He probably retires right after.
You're
already crying.
Yeah.
So does he retire after the game if they win? And B, when we think
I would cry too if the Jets win the Super Bowl. It would be waterworks.
Oh my God.
When the Chargers win the Super Bowl this year, Jeff.
No.
And we think about these two quarterbacks 15 years from now.
It wouldn't even be close.
And Eli
if I had one, it wouldn't even be close.
Eli has 2, Rivers has 1. Will people consider Rivers the better quarterback?
Yeah, wouldn't even be close.
I would tend to agree.
Because statistically, it would just be more. It would be the never missing anything. Well, Eli had a
but Eli beat the undefeated Patriots.
No, it was impressive. I know. I don't want to take anything away from his.
He beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. Sorry, that's going to trump, like it or not.
No, I don't know.
It should
be pretty
perhaps,
close
but
because I think.
Yeah, but no one's going to remember that 15 years from now. You forget how people.
He beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl.
Tim,
yes,
you will remember that because you hate Tom Brady. But that's not like. Ask anyone, like
people.
What happened 15 years ago in football?
In the 2003 season?
Yeah, was that the Tampa?
That was Fred X's season.
There you go. So, who won the Super Bowl that year?
In 2003. That was the year that the So the Super Bowl of 2003, which is really 2002. So Super Bowl 38. That was the Patriots 32. Panthers 29, the 04 Super Bowl for the 03 season.
It's really unfair.
That was a great Super Bowl. That was the Janet Jackson nip slip Super Bowl.
It was.
It's unfair to the Redskins to do this before we get to them.
All right,
But I just want to say this. If I don't even remember.
All right, Redskins.
I just don't want to see you cry anymore, Geoff. I'm feeling for you. I don't want to see you get sad.
Redskins, 6.5, minus 150 to hit the over. People are on the Redskins over. Plus 120 to hit the under. 7-1 to win the division. 25-1 to win the conference. 50-1 to win the Super Bowl.
Over. This team is so underrated.
If you think this team is underrated, and you're gonna have to eat minus 150 with that over, don't hate the 7-1 to win the division.
I don't think they're
because I mean at worst. Maybe Cousins is better than Alex Smith. I mean, I was talking about Cousins. I think that Alex Smith is underrated. And I think that he might enhance what this team can do. Well, they had a banged-up offensive line last year. Their entire defense was hurt.
Jordan Reed.
Yeah, but what do you count on Jordan Reed?
No,
Jordan Reed's going to play like 2 games.
When this team was healthy very early on in the year, it looked really good. They won some impressive games, and then it all just snowballed against them. I think they're just perpetually underrated because people like just can't stand the franchise.
Or
Like,
the name Redskins.
Yeah, for what happened with Cousins, and then like, why would you like go sideways with that? You had a guy in your building. Alex Smith is what 5-6 years older. I think for 2014 gives him just as good. 2014 for this year gives him just as good of a chance. I think they're being undersold. Again, this team healthy to me. It's the second best team in the division. I don't see them winning it, but I'm happy to take them over 6.5.
Yeah, me too. I think they're 8-8. I wouldn't bet the -150 because I don't have that degree of confidence in them. I mean, losing Geis kind of hurts. Now they brought in Adrian Peterson. Is Adrian Peterson the worst running back currently on an NFL roster?
Agreed.
I guarantee
I would rather.
I just despise him, and he'll be a great DFS play in week 1.
In his revenge game against the Cardinals?
We saw this last year, right? Both games coming out of byes. He was great last year.
He might not even be on the team by week 1.
You think I'm crazy, but no. I'm very confident that I would rather have just a kid that got cut somewhere else.
See if he's any good?
Yeah, that like a team is
I don't
deep at running
disagree.
back. That a team is deep at running back. They can't carry somebody. You snatch someone up off the waiver wires when those final cuts come. That type of player, I'd have my scouts hawking it. I'd rather own that guy than Adrian Peterson.
Maybe he's there to be a character and locker room leader. Maybe he gives parenting tips to the other running backs.
But he gets his full contract guaranteed, which is part of like the Dez hang-up. His teams don't want to sign him before week 1 because they don't want to guarantee his whole thing.
Yeah, I thought it was just a weird move. Because he looked like decrepit last year. He had the 2 good games, like Tim said.
Yeah,
like coming out,
moments.
Yeah.
They're like moments.
like give him 30 carries week 1, and then he's probably going to contribute some fantasy points. But if you put him into a situation like when he was the 4th best running back on the Saints last year, and you give him like 2 touches, because they don't have a workhorse running back, whether it's Rob Kelly, whether it's P. Ryan, maybe he can start over those guys because of the name value that goes along. But I mean, Chris Thompson staying healthy is a more dynamic player in this offense. He can't be out there the entire time because he has injury concerns and he's not super big. But I think with what they want to do offensively, you have Thompson out of the backfield, you have Crowder in the slot, and then you have Doxson on the outside, Tim's buddy P. Rich on the outside, replacing Terrell Pryor, who was just a big zero.
I love the Vernon
I mean,
Davis,
best case scenario,
Alex Smith reconnection.
That's true.
Best case scenario, he's LaDainian Tomlinson on the Jets. It was okay.
There's no way he's as good as LT was on the Jets.
Maybe he isn't, but like that, I think that's best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I would not put... Because people are talking to me like, oh, should I draft Adrian Peterson in fantasy? Like, I don't think so, man. Like
I wouldn't,
that
but
just
if he's a
sounds like
starting
waste
running
of
back,
it.
you almost sort of have
But
to.
But there is no starting running back on this team. Like, worst best case, someone plays 50% of the snaps.
Yeah,
Unless you get
I know.
points.
It's a very tough spot.
Unless you get points for being the box scored credit for starting,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, no.
I do like the... I think this is an 8-8 team. I like the over.
You picking
That's
the
a
NFC
playoff.
champion or something? Should we do that?
Yeah,
I guess
let's do
Tim-
that.
Tim did
Let's
that.
pick the conference winners. So, Tim, you're picking the Los Angeles Rams to win the conference?
Yes, Rams over the Saints in the title game.
Rams over the Saints. I'll go Falcons over the Packers in the NFC title game. Geoff, you can pick the same one as me. That's okay.
No, Geoff loves the Saints.
I'll go Saints Packers. Saints over
Packers?
the Packers.
We may have undervalued Minnesota.
I didn't.
We probably did in some regards, but
Watch Tampa Bay win it all. Tampa Bay, Arizona conference.
zero chance in Tampa.
All right, that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Geoff Fienberg, that was the NFC. You ready for the AFC?
I'm ready.
I know you're ready. Know you're ready for that. You can follow Geoff on Twitter at GFeinberg17. You can also follow on Twitter and check out his awful list. And Halloween's coming, so there might be an update. It's Tim Undercust!
Tim Andergust.
That's not my name, and your takes are bad. My takes are good.
See, there's another bad take. When Tim gets more than 6%, Tim releases a lot of polls on Twitter, as you well know. If he gets more than 6% on his side of a poll, he now declares that a win.
I was going to put that.
You know what that is? Sad.
When you were looking for suggestions for like the Tim board game, that was like going to be mine, like his polling.
Ask a question no one agrees with.
Yeah.
See if you can get 6% of the vote.
Ha 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 ha. You guys are a laugh riot.
We are a laugh riot. Are you going to comment about our Twitter followers too? Because that's another thing Tim loves to do. Comment on
haven't done
people's
that in
lack of
6
Twitter.
months.
How? I take your opinion seriously. You and your 32 Twitter followers must be a real big deal, a real laugh riot.
I haven't done that in months, and I've sworn that off. That's a bad habit, and I don't do it anymore.
Oh, you can be goaded to do it again. Maybe
I thought about it.
maybe that can be a bet that we do. That if someone says anything negative to you after we make a bet, that you have to respond to everyone that way. So anyway, harass Tim on Twitter at TimAnderson87 and subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, Audio Boom, the whole shebang. Anywhere you can download a podcast, you can download the Pat Mayo Experience. Plus, if you want to get in the draw for 20 DK bucks, give the episode a like, leave your DK handle in the comment section, and your favorite either over or under along with it. I will end up be doing a draw maybe week 1. At the beginning of week 1, we can figure out who wins it all. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!